Politic. I am Scott Stearns.
My name is Paul Sickle. Good evening, Wisconsin.
How's it going, Paul?
Well, it's going a little better than it was going last time we talked.
Yeah.
From one perspective, at least.
Yeah, the zombie Trump carrot is again,
once again,
it's again been buried.
It got defeated. It's for the fourth time that we thought it was defeated. It's now defeated.
Yeah, at least for now.
Right. They do have to go back to the drawing board. They can go back to the drawing board.
They can.
But they now truly have to go back to the drawing board.
Yes.
Because of the reconciliation rules.
Yeah.
They passed those instructions right before actually President Trump was inaugurated.
Yes.
They did it in early January.
It was one of the first things they did in the new Congress. So.
Reconciliation instructions. Those are expiring on
September 30th.
September 30th. And unless they decide to really pull a freak move and call a vote and get 50 plus 1 votes.
Yeah.
50 plus
50
Pence.
plus Pence, yeah.
Which I don't see how that happening. So
not happening.
Yeah.
So they were going to hold a vote on this new incarnation, the Graham, Cassidy, Johnson, Heller concoction. Pretty much, I would say it was probably the worst version.
The worst of them all.
Well, aside from like straight repeal, which would leave us back to
skinny repeal.
Where we
what
were.
What about skinny repeal? Was it worse than skinny repeal?
Perhaps, just because. That was just kind of a shell of a bill.
Yeah, actually, I think it was worse. I think actually it was worse than skinny repeal because skinny repeal didn't really do anything about Medicaid.
True. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's all bad, right? So,
right.
But this one was gonna send basically everything back to the states in the form of block grants, and then with long term, given how cash-strapped states are, they would just make bad decisions, and the protections for pre-existing conditions would go away. And I mean, we know where this is going to go, where it would end up. So
today's September 26th, and again, the deadline was what?
September 30th. So
I think I mentioned it earlier. I just didn't want to say it myself.
Yeah. So this Saturday basically is the deadline. So yeah, what sealed it was as we talked about last week. Rand Paul, John McCain came out against it, and then Susan Collins came out against it the other day. And if it had come to a vote, I think the fear was, and the reason why they didn't want to hold a vote, I think the vote tally probably would have been worse than the last time, because I think Murkowski would have voted against it, which would have been 4 votes, and then there was rumors that Ted Cruz even was not a yes vote, decided he wasn't a yes vote, and then he even pulled Mike Lee into it when he made his statement. So you could have potentially had 6 or 7 or more votes. You could have had some hemorrhaging.
They're all glommering onto each other now. The thing is, defeats an orphan.
Right.
What is it? Success of 1,000 fathers.
Yeah.
Something like that. Which is interesting because September 30th, which is the deadline to pass this under the reconciliation requirements, was my daughter's due date.
Oh, yeah.
She was early. So she, Eleanor Sickle, is the first in our family to ever be on time or early for any major event, including her birth.
Well, good for her.
I was born 2 weeks late.
In the pack.
Yeah. So, it's the 21st century. It's time for something new.
Mix it up.
Even changing the family traditions, I got to give Eleanor some credit.
So that's where we stand with healthcare right now. Now the rumors are going to move on to tax reform. Trump put out a statement today that he wants to lower the corporate tax rate down to 20%. And then the other thing was that they're talking about doing in Congress is potentially doubling the standard deduction and then raising the the lowest tax rate from 10 to 12. Which is going to be a tough political sell, because even if you're doubling the standard deduction, you're like raising the rate from 10 to 12. That's probably going to be dicey.
What I love about Scott Stearns is that this is a man who could make wonkiness sound easy.
Sound interesting?
Yeah. Good job. I mean,
Thanks.
I wasn't even following that debate.
Yeah.
And I get a little wonky myself from time to time. And
no.
that was good.
Never.
Well.
So
from success to outright fear.
Yeah.
We have North Korea
Mm-hmm.
and the United States continuing to raise rhetoric against each other.
Yeah.
And I can't stand North Korea. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sure, though, our president has taken the right approach to handle what is obviously a hostile, aggressive threat.
A dicey situation.
Right. I mean, President George W. Bush called North Korea part of the axis of evil.
He's not wrong.
President Obama certainly had his hands full dealing with North Korea.
Well, we've been dealing with this for generations.
Right.
Obviously, the North Korean regime is a unique animal.
The only recent president that I remember dealt with them successfully, really, in a crisis was President Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
In 93, 94, they started talking about putting a nuclear-tipped missile and aimed at Seattle. This is in the early 90s when this came up. Mm-hmm. And many would say that the deal failed. That said, one of the things that really helped lead us to this, as I recall, is that the U.S. Withdrew from the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty in 2002 under President George W. Bush.
Right. Remember that.
Yeah, sunsetted. I believe we were in that treaty for 40 years before then. And President Bush withdrew us from it because he wanted to push Star Wars. But what it did was it gave North Korea a license to start rebuilding its arsenal.
Yeah.
And what was ironic was during Bush's re-election, the debate he got schooled on was the foreign policy debate against John Kerry.
Yeah.
And Kerry was almost done for that election, and Bush just looked lost, debating Kerry on foreign policy, and all of a sudden the polls tightened for quite a while, right almost till election day, and Bush, narrowly squeaked out his re-election.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just I think it kind of shook the confidence of a lot of people that when they looked at Bush as kind of a deer in the headlights when it came to that level of foreign policy engagement. So
now imagine if that happened today.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
With the current president, Republican president Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, really, he wouldn't probably give that loss the headlights look. Maybe that's why he's so popular.
No, he would just go off and
with some crazy bluster.
Well, he would just default to his safety zone, which is just talking about his electoral college victory and how many people showed up at the last rally.
As much as I couldn't stand George W. Bush, his deer in the headlights look was an honest look.
Yes.
It was I care about the outcome of this question.
Right.
And I want to get this right. I want to do right. And I don't know the answer. So now that bothers me and stresses me. Whereas Donald J. Trump couldn't give a flying fuck.
No, he could just be like, he would just fly off the handle, and he couldn't care less about actually learning from the question was just posed.
So,
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right on that.
Well, thank you, Scott. So, I mean, this is a little bit important because, North Korea recently is talking about the thermonuclear atmospheric tests. We know they have some major capabilities with weapons.
Yeah. Based on our limited intelligence, yes.
We don't know that they can strike any target effectively.
But they have basically said that the U.S. has declared war on them based on the tweets of Donald Trump,
or his speech saying we'll just totally destroy North Korea, which does potentially violates the Geneva Convention. In some ways, it could be tantamount to threat of genocide. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Jinx by Make Hope, right? I mean, no, but that's.
It's a worrisome situation because I think initially it may have seemed innocent, like okay, there's these two guys just kind of sizing each other up online or putting out statements, and
you mean Trump and Kim Jong Un?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just wouldn't you just want to stick the two of them in a room and be like, all right, just put your hands up against one another and just figure out who's is bigger, and then maybe we can all move on from this. I mean, it's pretty juvenile what we've been witnessing. This is where we're at with foreign policy.
Yeah, the problem is we all have to live in this world.
I know that's.
And these guys want to blow it up,
right? And
practically is what it sounds like.
So the thing that you worry about is
the problem is that I'm comparing the president of the United States to Kim Jong Un.
Well, exactly.
I mean, the only thing I'm happy about is that I've pronounced his name correctly. I believe twice.
I think in
the last 2 minutes on this podcast.
Through all this positioning, I guess you could call it, you worry about us just kind of ending up in a conflict by default. Because you run out of options at some point. I saw a good interview today with Peggy Noonan, who was
right Reagan's speechwriter.
Yes, and definitely don't see eye to eye with her on a lot of issues, but
almost any.
Probably not. But she's questioning Trump's whole approach to foreign policy, and one of her things that she brought up is you don't put your enemy into a corner. What you want to do is you don't want to basically eliminate any options from their arsenal. So you want them to start questioning their own decisions so that they make better choices. And that's definitely something that this president is not doing. He's belittling Kim Jong Un, and he's calling him out and saying we're gonna eliminate him soon if he doesn't do the right thing. All that. It's playground politics, but the implications are so much more dire.
They are, and it's horrifying. And I think that, but back to what Peggy Noonan was saying, you don't back them into a corner.
No, you have to give your enemy options, and which is exactly what happened during the Cold War, right. Which they discussed in this interview that I saw, and so there were. For those of you who don't remember, I mean, there were two letters that were basically sent from the Soviet Union over, and one was more of a diplomatic option, and one was much more aggressive. And basically, Kennedy said, "Okay, we're gonna respond to the more diplomatic option," and that's what we ended up with.
So it's been said on this program before. I happen to be a labor organizer. Mm-hmm. And also a rep and a representative, and I've been involved in contract negotiations with companies that do not want to deal with their unions, even nonprofit companies. And one of the things that's come up as a constant theme that I was taught a long, long, long time ago, about 15 years ago when I first started, was that you always have to give the boss, and I'm on the labor side, so we view the boss as a more oppressive force, and I would argue that most people listening to this podcast would see the boss as the one with the power, most of the power,
right?
At least with the concentrated power. The workers have power, but it takes a lot for them to organize it. But when you want to settle a contract, you always have to give the boss a chance to save face.
Yep.
So Kim Jong Un has a hydrogen bomb. He may have the capability of, he may not aim them right, but I guarantee you it could cause a lot of harm to America and American interests, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of deaths.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about the electromagnetic pulse attack, he could, in theory, shut down the country for
so
a
basically,
good period of time.
If there's a way out of this thing, then there has to be a third way. And,
there has to be a way to save face. There always has to be.
Yeah.
There had to be with the U.S. and the Soviet Union.
Yep.
There has to be with Kim Jong Un. It doesn't help that the Chinese probably prop him up, and the Russians, to some extent, do so as well. But it also doesn't help that our president is constantly backing the guy into a corner,
right?
And is in, maybe he's in bed with the Russians, but what ultimately this is going to lead to is the Russians, even if they do sort of share his interests, I think the Russians are just going to try to take advantage of it.
Well, of course. Well, from their point of view, the best. It's in their best interest to sow chaos.
Trump's basically, he is like a scared dog, and he's irrational. That's the other part of the equation that I really fear is that I'm not sure our interests are now being directed by rational actors.
Well, I mean.
Neither
of these two actors are rational. I guess that's what we can really say. Is like Kim Jong Un and Donald Trump are not rational actors,
and
that's what creates anxiety.
Plane as Kim Jong Un.
Yes, if you were forming the Model UN at your local school and you had like a pick of the litter, and Kim Jong Un and Donald Trump were in your mix, I don't think those would be two guys you would sign up to kind of get stuff done.
Fuck Trump. Fuck Trump. Okay, Scott, who do you like for governor of Wisconsin, assuming we live to that point in November 2018?
So, Kathleen Weinhaut finally announced today. So that's, I believe that's, is that the 5th formally announced candidate, I believe?
No, I think it's like 8th.
I don't know. There's only
been Bob Harlow.
Yeah.
That's 1. Andy Gronick is 2. Tony Evers is 3. Dana Wachs is 4. And McCabe is 5. Okay, she's at least 6.
I think she's 6. I think that's it. There's a lot of people that have...
You sure?
Yeah.
That could be. I think we're missing at least 1.
I don't think so.
I mean... There are probably forgettable options, but
sure
I think we're missing at least 1.
So Kathy Weinhaut, she's she's been in the state legislature for a while, and she's run for governor before, but I don't know,
4% in the recall primary,
right? But that was stacked against her. So I don't know. I mean,
I watched her announcement video.
We did. We watched it before the podcast. We actually watched it.
I think that every statewide election is probably going to be stacked against her.
Yeah.
After watching that.
You think so?
Yeah. Yeah. On the other hand, I saw Dana Wachs speak this weekend.
Yeah.
And pretty boring.
Yeah. Not going to rally some crowds. Is that what
he has all the personality of Tom Barrett, and then a little less.
Okay.
And with less of a constituency.
I think, didn't you say he was like the up north Tom Barrett?
Yeah, with like fewer people behind it. I don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, he was telling us about how he was going to get the up north vote and win the election because he'd have the regular amount of voters in Madison, Milwaukee, and of course he's speaking in Milwaukee. And he'd do really well in Green Bay. And as he's telling us this, I'm on my smartphone watching the Packers tie the game and going into overtime. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way this guy is going to do well in Green Bay.
Yeah.
He's speaking about politics during the middle of a fucking Packer game. A really close one, too.
An important one.
I almost want to be like, Representative Wachs, I'm from Green Bay. I know Green Bay. And frankly, you're no candidate to win Green Bay.
Yeah, you wanted.
I really did. I mean, and by the way, the Packers just tied the score and are going into overtime. As you were boring us.
FYI.
So it'll be just like Barrett, like in 10 and 12. It'll be just like Burke in 14. It'll be the same Mr.
Numbers.
46%.
Yeah.
Like actually, probably take 1% or 2 off because it'll piss off all the Packer fans.
So what do we think about Andy Gronick now?
Well, there's a loss of like 44. I think that's a safety. Yeah, he's going nowhere.
Yeah, he's going nowhere.
In a real hurry.
I don't think. I think we could probably basically check him off the list.
Yeah, he's off. So now we're down to Harlow and Wachs.
Mike McCabe,
and Tony Evers. Yeah, that's not a very exciting group of candidates.
I don't know. I think it remains to be seen. I'm going to keep my eye on Weinhaut, though. I think her resume, is interesting. I think her background is interesting.
Malin Mitchell needs to run. He's the only one I can imagine now having the chance. Locks will probably come out as one of the strongest ones.
Mm-hmm.
Vinehout will be in there too.
If Malin announces, I mean, he could mix it up.
And Caven Evers, yeah. I mean,
they have some. Evers has the resume of being the statewide candidate because he's run for superintendent.
Man, one's more boring than the next. I mean, Vinehout's a little interesting, but not really. She's very inarticulate.
Yeah.
Not that I'm that articulate, but
look at who's president. Do you really need to be the most articulate person in the world?
The president's a celebrity.
This is true,
and he always was.
Well,
so yeah, I hope Malin gets in because I Malin Mitchell, president of the Firefighters Union. I think he would have some appeal.
Well, I think he would stir it up. I mean, that's the thing, and maybe that's what we need. I mean, there needs to be a very competitive primary this next go around because we've had multiple elections against Scott Walker where we basically had an anointed candidate every time.
Yeah,
there's been kind of token opposition,
right?
But the resources and the party have gone pretty much behind a single candidate.
So obviously we had the Alabama thing.
So Alabama, yes, there was a Senate primary tonight to succeed the seat formerly held by Jeff Sessions, currently held on an interim basis by Luther Strange, who is now running for a permanent spot in the Senate, and he got clobbered.
He's done.
He got Roy Moore, who was the former Supreme Court Justice.
Ten Commandments guy.
The Ten Commandments guy.
Who also tried to get gay marriage invalidated at the state level.
He basically equated it to bestiality, and So he's going to be, if he becomes the new U.S. Senator, he's going to kind of be the new nut. I think we keep on moving the bar, whereas it used to be that, Sessions, I think, we used to be considered one of the nuts, but then it was Ted Cruz, and then maybe Mike Lee. Now it's going to be Roy Moore. We're just going to keep on moving this thing further and further to see, how much crazy can we have in the U.S. Senate. The place that was supposed to be it's the most deliberative body, and it's supposed to be like the cooling saucer on tyranny in terms of the U.S. government. Yeah, the Senate is becoming a crazy place with electing guys like this.
Yeah. Well, so will Moore win? Probably.
It's
Alabama.
Well, it's Alabama, and I don't think any Democrat in a statewide election has gotten more than 38% in either presidential or senatorial races.
39 or 40.
Hillary had 34 in last year. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't obviously been ideal territory for Democrats. They do have a candidate that could be competitive. I mean, we'll see. Doug Jones is a former U.S. attorney. He's running. So we'll see if any resources get thrown his way in the weeks to come. I believe the general election is in December, so they've got some time. They have a few months.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little ways out.
It would take a huge turnout for the Democrats to compete.
I think it would. Well, it would require a lot of Democratic turnout and probably a suppressed Republican turnout.
Right.
Which is
might happen.
You got a little time. Maybe you could do some convincing.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk to some people in Alabama and say, hey, you may be Republican, but does Roy Moore really represent your idea of what the Republicans should be?
On paper, in an off-year election or a special election, you would expect the Republican to garner around 800,000 votes, all things equal.
Yeah.
In Alabama. And Hillary got 729,000 votes. Obama was right around 800,000 both times.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's
might suppress it.
There's a possibility that there may be a lower turnout. I mean, given that they really haven't accomplished anything in the Senate this year, it's of note anyway. So maybe that depresses turnout. Or the other thing is, I mean, is the Moore the more nomination, a reaction to that. I mean, the fact that they haven't gotten anything done.
Well, it probably is.
So,
yeah, it probably is. And I mean, let's keep it in perspective. You got 240,000 votes.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about, it looks like Democrat, like just on paper, can get at least 500,000 or 600,000 votes.
Yeah.
The Republican should be able to, in an election like this, get up to about 800,000, maybe even 900,000.
Yeah.
The question is, does Moore turn off enough people that it stays closer to 700,000, and then can the Dems turn out some people?
Sure.
If that happens, well, then you may flip a seat. But it seems unlikely. It seems less likely than the Brewers winning the division.
Probably.
But on the other hand, it's not. It's better than winning a lottery.
Oh, of course. Of course it is. But, no, it's, I mean, they have a little bit of time. It's not like the general is happening in a couple weeks, so we'll see what kind of strategy they put together.
When a pitcher bats in the National League, do you just, like, stop watching because you know the guy's going to make it out?
No. You know there's going to be that time.
They bat about 120, which means there's a 12% chance they'll get a hit.
And you want to be there watching it when it happens.
I mean, if it was like a 0% chance of them getting hit, you wouldn't watch it. But it's a 12% chance, so it's worth just checking out.
Well, I think we've got another one in the books tonight. This is episode number 27. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Forward.